Hey everyone, I am Anthony Scott at ToyHypeUSA.com. Today we are reviewing the 20th subscription box to FanHome's Iron Man figure, which includes issues 75, 76, 77, 78, and Assembly Guide number 9. Each of these magazines come with parts to continue the build. Special shout out and thank you to FanHome for sending along for a review. This is greatly appreciated. To subscribe, click off the link in the YouTube description or the hyperlinks off of ToyHypeUSA.com. More information about the subscription is available on the FanHome website. Here's a closer look at issue 75 as well as the parts that are included with this issue. On the cover, you have Ultron Buster Iron Man. First article, Iron Man and Thor, God Complex. A continuation. And about halfway through, we have a look at the parts and assembly. That's going to be what we're going to be working on. Here's a closer look at the parts. 2 bags of screws are included. And the steps. This is the right shoulder plate. Second part of the assembly. Going to be putting it right on the chest as shown. There's your look there. And there's completed assembly. So it's going to go right here on this whole chest piece here. Here's an exploded view, which really does come in handy. And now, new article, Edwin Jarvis, the Loyal Butler. A continuation. And the final article, Ultron Buster, an impossible duel. And on the back, we have Iron Man and Thor, issue number 1 from January 2011, a bio, and a look at the next issue. So I'm going to assemble this right now, and let's take a closer look. Assembly is now complete, and here's a look at it. The right shoulder armor. It is going to be a little bit loose as it's screwed in on the back, so just be aware of that. At least it's a little bit loose on mine. This silver piece, you just push it through there. And here is a look at the back. You're just going to slide this red piece right through the slot and screw it in there. So here is closer look at everything. This is on a hinge joint here, and I'm going to work on the other side now. Here's a look at issue 76 as well as the parts that are included. As I just stated, I'm going to be working on the other side of the shoulder, and that is what this step is here. So on the cover, you have Ice Armor Iron Man. First article, The Illuminati, Secrets of War. A continuation. And about halfway through, you have a look at the parts and assembly. Same steps, just the other side. Here's a closer look at the parts. Here is assembly. Here's a look at the other page, as well as an exploded view. Screw that in as shown, and finished assembly. Here's an exploded view. Here's your look there. Next article, Thanos, the Mad Titan. A continuation. And finally, we have Ice Armor, a prehistoric Iron Man. And on the back, we have Avengers Volume 4, number 8 from February 2011, a bio and a look at the next issue. I'm going to assemble this right now, and let's take a closer look. Here's a look at completed assembly. Both sides are now attached, and this top part is hinged as shown. I am now moving on to the next issue. Hey everyone, Anthony Scott here of ToyHypeUSA.com. Today we are reviewing FanHome's 20th subscription box of their Build Your Own R2-D2 figure, which includes issues 75, 76, 77, and 78. Each one of these magazines come with parts to continue on to the build. Special shout out and thank you to FanHome for sending along for a review. It's greatly appreciated. To subscribe, click off the hyperlink on ToyHypeUSA.com or the link right in the YouTube description. That'll take you over to the FanHome page where you can find more information. Here's a closer look at issue 75 as well as the parts that are included to continue on with the build. Inside, building R2-D2, assembling the middle ring. Inside Star Wars, developing the characters. And for Droid Directory, we have BB-8 Astromech Part 5. First article, developing the characters. And a continuation. Some great behind the scenes work here. And for Droid Directory, we have BB-8 Astromech Part 5. A continuation. And for robotics, we have Artificial Muscle. A continuation on the left. And on the right, we have the parts breakdown and a look where it all goes. So these are the body frames, which you see here. And a look at instructions. So we're going to be continuing on with the frame that we've built last issue. And here is a closer look at the steps. That's how it's going to look. You're going to be using the screws to screw that in. Building up the frames. So this is going to go right on top. And completed assembly. So when you're done, it's going to look like this. Fit right on top of here. Here is a look at the back. I am going to assemble this now. And let's take a closer look. Here's a look at the completed assembly of the middle ring, which is right here on top. For the screws, I basically used what I had. You're going to be using the screws with the larger heads, which you see here. I had to go back in the bag and find more of those that were previously used from earlier assembly. A lot of leftovers, so I just went ahead and used those. And there's your look at the completed assembly. I am going to move on to the next issue. Here's a look at issue 76, as well as the parts we're going to be using for assembly. Inside this issue, building R2-D2, assembling the left front body panel. Inside Star Wars, starships and vehicles. And for Droid Directory, we have R2-D2 Astromech Part 2. First article, starships and vehicles. Some great concept work here, great sketches. A continuation. And R2-D2 Astromech Part 2. For robotics, we have robot assistants. A continuation. And here's a look at the parts and assembly. This is a breakdown of the parts included and assembly here. Here's a closer look at the parts, which includes the body, panel, and details, and a look where it's all going to go. We're getting a ton of new screws. And here's a closer look at assembly. So it's the same as we've previously done on the other panel. Here is a closer look. And completed assembly there. And fitting the dome screws. So we're going to be screwing in more of these parts. And completed assembly. So I'm going to assemble right now, and let's take a closer look. Here's a look at the panel as well as the details. It's the same as we previously did. These three parts are on here. These two are screwed in. This one is you just press it in. Here's a look at the back. For the back, you're going to be using two of the smallest screws included. This one's slightly longer screws. Here's a look at the dome screws. I finished most of these except for the two on the left, so that's the two that I placed in. And I am now moving on to issue 77. Here's a look at the cover of issue 77, as well as the parts that are included. Inside, building R2-D2, body frames and dome fittings. Inside Star Wars, studio and location work. And for Droid Directory, we have infiltrator, demolition droids. First article, studio and location work. Some great behind the scenes look here. A continuation. And Droid Directory, infiltrator, demolition droids. And here's a look at the build. So we are working on the body frames and dome fittings. Here's a look at the parts we're going to be using, which you see here. More Allen screws as well. And assembling the leg support. So here's a look at the steps. Screwing that on. And completed assembly. So that's what it's going to look like. Fitting the lightsaber ejector, which is something we previously assembled. Screwing those screws in as shown. Placing that in. Next step, wiring up the dome. This is pretty extensive, so take your time when working on this. A lot of steps in this one. And finally, once all that wiring and everything else is done, this is what it's going to look like. I'm going to assemble this right now, and let's take a closer look. Here's a look at the frame. This is the first part of the build. Frame is assembled to the rest of it, and that's how it's going to look once completed. Here's a look at the inside of the dome. As you can see, the wires are wrapped around these plastic clips, and they're all attached to the circuit board here. The lightsaber ejector is inside. I went ahead and put this plastic piece around the wire as the instructions showed. However, the only thing I failed to do and continue to fail to do is to properly attach the lightsaber ejector itself. I've tried screwing it in both top and bottom. I've tried many different things for quite some time, so I have completely failed to properly assemble just this. It is quite complicated, so hopefully you guys did a much better job than I did. I am moving on to the next issue. Here's a look at the cover for issue 78, as well as the parts we're going to be using for assembly. Inside issue 78, fitting tools to the compartment. Inside Star Wars, the cameras start rolling. And for understanding robotics, we have keeping track. First article, the cameras start rolling. Qui-Gon Jinn on the cover there. A continuation. For robotics, we have keeping track. And a continuation on the left. On the right, we have a list of the components and tools. This is everything inside this bag right here. And a look where it goes. So the first step is assembling the arm. Second step is assembling the second arm. A lot of little steps here, so take your time. Completed assembly, that's what it's going to look like. And the second arm for R2-D2. Completed assembly. Next step, fitting the tools to the component. Completed assembly. This is what it's going to look like. And next part, fitting the tool to the compartment door. And completed assembly. And the last step is installing the tool compartment. Screwing that in. And completed assembly. So I'm going to assemble all this now, and let's take a closer look. Here's a look at the complete assembly. Both sides are finished. Here's a look there. Here's a look at the other side, just for your reference. This door panel opens up on this side, revealing R2-D2's two arms. And these are on a hinge joint. These pieces are glued together, so just be extra careful with it. Here's a look at his arms. A lot of great detail there. So there's your look at completed assembly. Thank you again to FanHome for sending along for review. Greatly appreciate that. I am Anthony Scott at toyhypeusa.com. Thanks for watching this review. And come back and stay tuned for our next Iron Man and R2-D2 reviews.